little bit blocked with your spiritual gifts and we're having a difficult time understanding why that is, well, I'm going to share something that I found inside of my clients' Akashic records in case it unlocks and activates something for you as well. Remember to give a follow so you can stay up to date on more Akashic record journeys. My clients' questions were, and I'm going to be reading from my notes today. What do I need to focus on to become an awesome healer? How can I tap into knowledge that I have learned from other lifetimes? She is already an energy healer in this incarnation, and she helps people recognize where they have blockages, crystalline energy in their physical body in order to help them release that. However, she was having a difficult time channeling for herself, channeling for others, messages from higher self, inner children, different incarnations, spirit team. So as a practitioner, I went in with that intention to speak with her team and figure out why we were having these impediments with our channeling. When I went into her energy field, I saw a bat and a badger. So it was a bat that had the head of a badger. And I was like, oh, I don't typically see animals that are merged like that together unless it's a mythological creature like a chimera. I said, okay, a bat has echolocation that helps it find things. Badgers are also representative of finding things because they tunnel. And I said, oh, okay, this is going to be about a gift in reference to frequency finding. After I got done talking to this bat badger, I was in the ocean and I was on the back of a sea turtle. And as we were traversing, I asked him where we were going, and he said the Galapagos Islands. I said, okay, why are we going there? So the islands are representative of uniqueness because there are certain animals that only live there. Also, Charles Darwin, who revolutionized the concept of evolution, did a lot of his studying there. And so when I got to the island, I said thank you to the turtle, and I said, dang, I wish I had a map because I wasn't really sure what I was looking for, where I was going, and all of a sudden one appeared in my hands. And that's when I read that this was a map of genomes. Genomes are the complete set of DNA or genetic material an organism holds within itself. Talking to her higher self, I realized that she holds the gift of being able to astral project herself into people's DNA sequencing, and that can have a myriad of different effects on people. So one of the things you could get into was clearing ancestral and generational trauma from someone's fields, things that kind of go beyond just behavioral patterns and triggers that we're experiencing in the current because of our environment or because of the way that we have been raised. These are things that have been passed down for quite a while and need a deeper clear out. Obviously, you can help people with their physical symptoms in this lifetime as well. And one of the cool things was, let's say that we have a mom and a daughter, and the daughter is already birthed. Okay, let's say that she's like 13. Even though they are two separate persons, that mother and that daughter's DNA are still connected through the ethers, through energetic cords. So if the mother over here does that generational ancestral trauma clearing, it is going to then have an effect on that daughter. Then if we want to get into different incarnations, even though I have a certain set of DNA, my other incarnations have their own sets of DNA, and you can actually astral project yourself through DNA sequencing in other incarnations in order to connect with them or learn and grow or be in their different timelines. When I was looking at this gift, however, there were some impediments of her fully bringing that into fruition because of the issues with channeling. And so I asked her higher self, what do I need to see here? And I was taken to what I call the void space, the 0 point within self. I was actually POVing as her energy body, as her. I was looking out in front of me, and I could tell that there was a hall of mirrors behind me, and that can mean several different things. Sometimes that's how people's Akashic records present themselves, or it can be portals into your subconscious or portals into different dimensions. For her, it was portal into subconscious. And every time that I tried to turn around to see the Hall of Mirrors, it would move with me. I wasn't able to view it. And so I said, okay, she's having an issue with perception. And because I know how to, I shifted my own astral body within myself so I could turn around and look at it. And there was 5 different doors, if you'll call them mirror doors. And I made a request and said, if there's anybody in here that wants to come and speak with me about these channeling blocks that she's experiencing, I would love to do that. And then her 4-year-old came forward through one of the mirrors, and I was explaining to her who I was, and I said, hey, do you want to go somewhere that's a little bit more fun? Even though it wasn't scary where we were at necessarily, but, it was just the void. And she said, I cannot go with strangers. And I said, yes, ma'am. I said, love that. Okay. You definitely need to be checking who you were traversing places with, okay? And I called in her higher self, and she said, oh, y'all are friends? And I said, yes. And she said, okay, I'll go with you. So I created a portal, and we walked through it, and it was this really lovely pasture. There was apple trees. It was really sunny, just somewhere an inner child would feel really safe and secure and just kind of liberated. And I started to ask her, hey, could you tell me about these blocks you're experiencing? She was having a difficult time communicating. And I said, okay, look, sometimes it's easier to show me or to express how you're feeling instead. And we sat in front of one another, crisscross applesauce, and I asked her to give me her hands, and she put them in. I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I saw her in this really intense snowstorm, like she was in the tundra or the Antarctic at 4 years old. And I was calling out to her, and she was not responding. She was kind of far away. And so I ran up to her, and she was just crying her eyes out. And I said, oh, you're okay, I got you. And I lifted her up and I said, you're safe, it's okay. I said, are you lost? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, well, I got you now. And we snapped back into that pasture where we first started, and she was just crying. I said, what happened? Where were you? And she was telling me that when she was younger, she had an experience where she astral projected out of her body and ended up in that tundra Antarctic place and could not get back to herself. And she was there for a hot minute, and she thought she was going to be there forever and that she was alone. And eventually she got back in her body. And what I gleaned from that is when she was in the dream state, because she was very tapped in, tuned in, she actually left her body and got up in the ethers and the astral and was having a difficult time getting back. After I helped her regulate, I said, this is why we really need to be teaching people how to utilize their magic, because there are so many empaths and light workers that have had experiences like this when we are younger, and it actually ends up blocking our channeling abilities, our spiritual gifts, because it's scary. Nobody is teaching us how to mitigate these things. And we're told magic is evil, or it's not real, or we're afraid of persecution. And we have all these very powerful children that don't know how to work their gifts. That happened to me. I used to see shadow beings when I was younger, and there was no way I was going to talk to my grandparents about it. And I ended up just blocking everything within myself. And it took quite a while for me to reawaken those things within. And now that's why I'm on here sharing these things. I can be teaching people, hey, these are not things that you have to be scared of. We just need the right tools and resources. So that way we have parents or teachers and mentors that are leading and guiding the new wave of children that are coming into the collective. I asked her if I could show her something, the little girl, and she said yes. And sometimes I will create these memory balls that encompass a lot of my experiences, whether this from this incarnation or other ones. And I showed her where I have been on so many astral etheric travels, and I have never gotten lost. I have always made it back to my body, and that made her feel a lot more confident. And I also had showed her where at the beginning stages of my spiritual journey, I felt like all of my channels were blocked. I was not able to access my higher self or my inner children or different incarnations. It felt like a real struggle. She was like, oh, you too? And I was like, yeah, it's not just you. There's a lot of people that experience that. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you or anything is broken. There are a lot of different layers as to why that could happen. It can be trauma, religious, societal, cultural programming. You might have experienced something in a different incarnation that created some wounding or karmic rollover lessons, lots of different things, but it's okay. Okay, that's what we're doing here now. We are remedying this. I said, you never have to go on a travel alone ever again. I said, you have your higher self here now that you can hear and you can see, and her higher self held out her hands and she said, I will always be with you. Okay? When you were younger, when we are experiencing a lot of fear and panic and fight or flight, it constricts our channels and makes it a lot more difficult for us to be able to perceive our spirit team and our higher self. I said, now the lines of communication are open and she will always be here for you. I said, but I want to share something with you that will help. I held up a necklace and I said, what do you want your pendant to look like on the bottom of it? And she looked at me, and I think it's because I look like that. She's like, a fairy. And I said, okay, we'll do fairy. So I said, I want you to put this necklace on. Always keep it on, unless you don't want to. You know, everybody has autonomy and free will. But I said, as long as you keep this necklace on, I want you to grab it whenever you feel scared or you feel lost. And you can call me, Sage. My higher self will meet you wherever you are at in the cosmos, in the galaxy, in the ethers. I will be there. And I said, your higher self, you can do the same thing. You can call her too, but we will show up for you. And I said, do you trust me? And she said, yes. And I blipped out of the field and she called me right back. She said, oh, it works. And I said, yeah. And she did it with her higher self as well. And then she showed back up. And so she felt a lot more secure. And something that I always tell my clients is anytime that I work with your inner children, I tell them, if you ever need me for something, you can call on me. That is part of my soul mission, is to be a guardian of the sweet angel babies. And because I'm at this level now where I can bilocate myself into different versions, different higher selves, so I don't have to actively, consciously be present to do that, it's something that brings me a lot of joy. It makes them feel a lot better in their lives doing this type of work. I wanted to share this today because this might be something that is currently running in your field of, oh wow, I was a really awakened, aware, sensitive child, and maybe I had some experiences that happened that I'm not recalling right now. But if I do a little bit of deep diving within myself, maybe I can find those trauma points so that I can help them work through that so they feel a lot more safe and secure on going through those travels with me now as the adults who is there for them. Also with our higher self, we do now have tools and resources. We have that understanding that we will always snap back into our body. If you're talking to a 4-year-old, they don't always understand those concepts. Like, it's one thing to say it, but it's another to actively show them the processes and try it out with them in a safe space for them to feel a lot more confident and empowered. And so I would love to hear in the comments what your biggest takeaway from this message was, if you have any questions. And I hope you have a super magical day.